Hey, I'm Candace, your host, and if you're ready to grow your business and build your authority by getting booked on podcasts, I've got something special for you. I'm launching a brand new course that will walk you through exactly how to get booked on podcasts. Everything from identifying the right shows to pitching, preparing for interviews, and leveraging your guest appearances for growth. Plus, if you sign up for the waitlist now, you'll get early access to the course and these special bonuses. When you officially enroll in the course, you'll save $50 and get a free one-on-one strategy call with me to help you prep your speaking points and align your offers. These bonuses are limited and end on April 13th, so make sure to sign up today. Head to the link in the show notes to join and get started on your podcast guesting journey. I can't wait to help you get booked and start sharing your message with the world. Now let's dive into today's episode. All right, I've been wanting to do kind of a series of very specific episodes that are different how-tos, if you will, to starting different things. This one is going to be about starting a podcast. For the most part, it's going to be the technical pieces that you need to get set up in order to start one. I know that for me was the most overwhelming because it seemed like there was so many new things that I was going to have to learn, but it really comes down to fairly simple things. So we're going to dive right in. This one's going to be fast and furious. Everything I'm going to say here also comes in a downloadable that I have. I'll link that in the show notes with links and everything, including referral links and whatnot to save you some cost. But overall, it's a pretty low cost thing to start a podcast. First thing is to order a mic. I have one from Amazon. It's about $30. I don't have the very cheapest and I definitely don't have the most expensive. I went with a middle ground and I'm super happy with it. And again, I'll link the things that I talk about in the show notes for you. Next part, decide on a name for your podcast. You're going to need a podcast cover, and on that, you'll want the name. Don't overthink this. Naming our new business, naming our new podcast, it seems like a major deal and seems very heavy. And I think this is what we let stop us so often, is to try to get this perfect. And honestly, you can change your name and you can change your cover art whenever you want. So don't let this be the thing that stops you. So just decide. But I would suggest leaning towards something that might indicate what it is and not something like, oh, glitter, sparkle, rainbow, whatever. You know what I mean? If that is helpful. So not that you have to be super tangible, but it is probably helpful for people searching and looking through different genres of podcasts if your name has a little bit of something that is meaningful in it. Okay, you can make a free podcast cover art over on Canva. You can type in the search bar when you're in Canva and do a square Instagram post size. That post size works perfect for the spot that I have to upload that cover. And then they also have podcast templates in there as well if you want something to start with. And if you happen to have brand colors, and don't freak out if you don't, you can also put those into Canva and click on your brand colors and I'll swap out the colors for you when you're looking at different templates. So that's kind of a tech tip for you on Canva where it kind of can do some of the work for you and you don't have to be a designer to make something look really nice. Decide what you're going to record on. I use a free program called Audacity. It's super user friendly, I think, based on the other things that I have tried in the past. When I first started, it's as a teacher, they gave you a laptop and it was a MacBook Air and it had like media player or whatever. And I could just record and I couldn't even edit. So you can scroll back. I've said this many times before. My first episodes are still there and my first dozens of episodes are not edited in the slightest bit because I didn't even have a program yet on my radar that I could edit on, let alone even if I had the program, I didn't know how to do it. So I would highly recommend Audacity. A lot of my podcasting friends also use it. It's just pretty easy to edit. I like to edit. You don't have to edit. Depends on what your vibe is, but I like to clean things up, especially when I have a guest on, because I like them and myself to come across clear as possible in their message. And also for my viewers, my listeners like you, I want you to get the information as fast as you can possibly get it. So I like cutting out any little tangents or stutters and things like that for you. But again, that's free, called Audacity. And then where are you going to host your podcast? This is the biggest thing. And I was going to say hours, but it was probably more like days and weeks Googling at different times because I would get so overwhelmed with the articles and things out there telling me what to use and where to go. But what it really came down to was just deciding. And Buzzsprout is what I use and what all of the people that have podcasts that I know of, probably 5 to 6 people in my network that I know that have podcasts, they host theirs on Buzzsprout as well. And I'll post a link in the show notes for a $20 credit for you. That has a cost, but it's like $12 a month. So it's extremely minimum. So between buying your microphone and and paying $12 a month to have a platform that hosts your podcast. And what I mean by that is when you get your sound bite from Audacity and you're going to need to then go put it somewhere that would get it out to like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the big podcast players, Buzzsprout can do that for you. You simply will go into Buzzsprout and make an account. You'll be able to upload audio, and then you'll be able to add a title and a show notes description. You can link things in your show notes. You can do all kinds of things. And then you can schedule when you want the podcast to air. So like I'm recording this on a Monday, the week before it's going to air. And so I can schedule it and have it post for me. It's super nice to do that. I typically, during the school year, I will have many, many podcast episodes scheduled ahead of time, and that's really handy. But right now, summer life, it's just what it is. We're just YOLOing it basically every day with the kids. So here we are making it happen in real time. So Buzzsprout, super handy. Again, go grab that link for a $20 credit and it pays for like almost your first 2 months of it. They have a free option, but the question basically, what's the difference between that and a paid one? You can upload podcast episodes, but then in 90 days, then that episode, once it's 90 days old, it won't save on there. It'll be gone. And if you want all your episodes to be up and out to the world, to be able to view whenever they want, you'll want to use the paid option. There's a couple other pieces. I actually upgraded and I pay like $18 a month because I like paying the $6 extra for their magic mastering. And that just kind of evens out the sound a little bit better, makes it sound better. And then they also let you add dynamic content with that extra upgrade, which is simply being able to add an intro and an outro. So if you notice on this podcast, there's like a little recording that's the same in the beginning of each episode, and then it ends each episode. I don't have to add that every time. I just did that once and upload it to Buzzsprout, and then it puts it on all of my episodes. So that's pretty handy. So that's kind of it in a nutshell as far as like what you need to get set up. In Buzzsprout, you'll have to do a few things. There's a spot, you'll see it all. There's tabs and there's a spot to put in your podcast information. So that's where you can put your cover art. That's where you can put the name of the podcast in there and all that. The other most notable thing is to make sure to click on the directories tab. That is where you're going to find all of those podcast players, those big media players like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, everything that you want to click on, because you do have to click on each of those individually, the ones you want your podcast to be able to play on, and then follow the couple quick directions that they'll have right there for you to do to get your podcast up on those sites. So that's super, super handy. And that's what Buzzsprout does for you, is that when you schedule and upload your episode on there, then it will push it out the day that you schedule it to all of those things that you do. And again, that was in the directories tab when you're in Buzzsprout. In a nutshell, that is really all you'd really kind of need to get your podcast up and going and playing. I will add, if you're planning to have guests on your show, the way I do it is through Zoom. I know that there are other things and other platforms you can use. I like to use Zoom and just use a free Zoom account and send my guests my Zoom link, and then I just record that. There is a step though to be able to get that Zoom recording into Audacity to get the files to match. I go through that in my podcast downloadable. If you're looking to have a guest on your show, I have the steps directly in there. That will save you a lot of time. And that was just a huge time suck in Google Land and watching YouTube videos to figure that out. But it actually is really quite simple, and I have it typed up for you in that. I also have a few places to get free background music linked in that downloadable. I even have the guest form that I send my guests so that I can get their bio, a little bit about them, any links that they want in the show. Because if you're going to have a guest on and they're going to give you their time to be on your show, it's really nice to be able to kind of highlight the things that they're doing and let people know where they can be found as well. If that makes you feel like, oh no, I'm trying to promote my own self and I can't have guests on, then just got to flip your mindset a little bit into that when others rise and when one woman rises, we all rise, and there is enough room for all of us. So I have had tons and tons of guests on here that do similar or even the exact same things that I do. It's just a great thing in my mind to keep sharing each other's stories and keep cheering everybody on, because entrepreneurship and doing things like starting a podcast can be scary, can be isolating, can be lonely, and you're really putting yourself out there to possibly have people criticize you, but for the most part, they're going to cheer for you and they're going to be inspired by you, and that you are that person out in front, showing them what's possible. And that's really pretty cool. Other things in that downloadable is some basic recording and editing Audacity tips that I took a while to figure out. So I typed all that up in that downloadable, but I don't want to get into it. For those of you that already are overwhelmed, you can just start with those first few things that I said, like ordering your mic, decide on a name, make your podcast cover art on Canva, download your free Audacity program, set up a Buzzsprout account, hit record on Audacity, and get it going. Okay, I have thrown a lot at you in just this short bit of time. Please, please, please don't get stuck in overwhelm land. What you can do is go back and the first thing I say, order the mic, do that one step today. Then do the next step tomorrow or in the next hour, whatever works for you. Do one little baby piece at a time. Just repeat that consistently and you will have your podcast up and running. If it gets overwhelming, pause for the day, come back to it later, message me, tell me what you're stuck on. If you're still listening to this, I know that setting up a podcast and getting your story and your message and other people's stories out into the world is important to you. You wouldn't have still been listening. And I just want to say that no matter what anyone else tells you, it is amazing that you are considering getting your story out there, because I guarantee there are people out there waiting to have their voice heard and have someone that is sharing a story like theirs that they have not heard yet. And so think of those people that are going to be inspired and helped by you because you're brave enough to go first and share your own story. All right, hit me up with your questions. If you have quick questions that I can answer in a DM or voice message or email, don't be shy. I'm here. Got you, girl. And if you need more undivided attention and you want my full help setting up or talking through a podcast plan, strategy, whatever, go ahead and book a consult with me and I'll link that in the show notes too. All right, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready for podcast mentoring, whether it's setup, editing, planning, or guesting, you can book a one-on-one call with me through the link in the show notes. I hope you feel seen, inspired, and like your dreams and goals are completely valid, because they are. See you next Tuesday.